Aurora twirled in front of the mirror, admiring the color of her skirt. It was the kind of skirt she had always dreamed of having. While she was imagining which shoes would match the new piece, her husband came into the room mocking her. With a caustic tone, he said that the skirt didn't suit her, that she looked like a sack of potatoes. He suggested that she should lose weight before buying skirts, stating that Aurora did everything the other way around. Feeling offended, Aurora almost cried. It wasn't the first time he had heard such criticism, so he decided to respond that he knew he had gained weight, blaming it on the hormonal pills prescribed by the doctor. Aurora mentioned that perhaps these pills would help her get pregnant and ultimately have a baby. Oliver laughed dismissively, saying it was her fault for eating too much and that medicine wouldn't help. He stated that he did not expect to have an heir from her. Offended, Aurora remained silent. Oliver, realizing he had overreacted, tried to alleviate the situation by asking if a red tie would go with a black shirt or something more neutral, as he had an important meeting that evening. He carelessly kissed Aurora on the cheek, saying that he would be late and that she shouldn't wake him when she returned. Aurora took off her skirt, crumpled it and threw it on the floor, no longer wanting to wear it. Her mood had completely disappeared, and she wondered why her husband had changed so much recently. Aurora began to analyze everything, from the beginning of the relationship. She grew up in a simple, hardworking, almost poor family in a small town. His mother was a cleaner, and his father worked in a factory. They lived counting pennies from paycheck to paycheck. There were many fights at home, as his father often drank. When he didn't have money to drink, he traded things around the house. His mother was exhausted and tormented. As a child, Aurora looked at her mother's red, rough, swollen hands, and thought in horror that she didn't want to live like that, or do that to her own daughter. She never liked the place where she lived, with its houses with worn-out walls, dirty yards, and mountains of trash. The potholed roads and the drunken men who wandered around aimlessly made her so sad that Aurora just wanted to run away, escape that gray and harsh landscape. The same feeling invaded his small, old apartment, which hadn't seen renovations in years. The wallpaper was peeling off the ceiling, the walls were dirty and stained. The chairs, worn out by time, creaked and rocked, while the springs of the old sofa, where Aurora slept, pressed mercilessly against her sides. It seemed that his mother and father did not live, but survived, hating themselves and the world around them. Aurora, determined to change her life, dedicated herself to studying, especially in mathematics, where she excelled at solving complex equations and problems with ease. This was his chance to escape to the big city and become successful. She graduated from school with honors and university was not a problem either. At first, the career was difficult. With no money for clothes and cosmetics, Aurora was a source of ridicule among her colleagues. However, teachers admired her for her intelligence and dedication, and with their help, Aurora was hired immediately after college as an accountant at a small company. It was in this work that Aurora found a little happiness as she began her adult life. It was there that he met Oliver, a young man from a wealthy family, who was starting his own real estate business. Although he had difficulty managing accounts and budgets, he regularly hired outside help. Aurora was assigned to review Oliver's documentation and identify potential flaws. Even though it was her first task, Aurora carried it out brilliantly, leaving the client satisfied. Oliver invited her to have coffee in a cozy cafe, an invitation that Aurora accepted. She was attracted to him. Oliver was confident and respectable, unlike the classmates who courted her during her studies. Oliver, in turn, was also enchanted by Aurora's intelligence and fragility, and began to court her. Oliver's mother, however, hated Aurora, as she dreamed of marrying her son to someone rich, capable of boosting the family business. To her, Aurora was an intruder who had appeared out of nowhere to ensnare her favorite son. Oliver, an attractive young man standing almost 2 meters tall, didn't seem to fit in with Aurora, who appeared to still be a teenager. However, Oliver was in love with Aurora and considered her his dream come true, ignoring all criticism. The marriage took place despite opposition. During the ceremony, Aurora's mother, enchanted by the luxury of the room and the guests' attire, said to her daughter, "Very well, Aurora. I'm happy for you. Value your husband and never say anything that might offend him. If you do this, you will lose your luck, and his mother will become even angrier. But don't worry, when you give birth to an heir, everything will calm down." The wedding was beautiful, and the newlyweds moved into Oliver's apartment, where their married life began. At first, everything seemed perfect, sweet nights full of tenderness, with lots of love and affection between the two. Oliver convinced Aurora to join his company to help him develop the business, and she accepted. Days and nights were dedicated to working on papers and reports, and within 6 months, Aurora managed to organize her husband's finances, making forecasts and profitable deals. The business began to prosper. Aurora strived to expand her income and saw the fruits of her labor grow before her eyes. However, something frustrated her deeply: she couldn't get pregnant. Health problems related to the reproductive system tormented her, and doctors prescribed several treatments and pills, but all without success so far. This was a painful subject for everyone, especially for Scarlett, Oliver's mother, who never missed an opportunity to scold Aurora. Scarlett commented that all of Oliver's friends already had children, while he had chosen a defective wife. Despite the criticism, Oliver protected Aurora from her mother's insults, as he loved her sincerely and intensely. However, as the years passed, Oliver's ardor cooled, and he developed a nasty habit of joking and hurting Aurora's feelings, especially after she gained weight due to hormonal medication. Aurora tried to fight this by exercising and avoiding sweets, but the weight continued to slowly increase. This was a sensitive subject for her, and Oliver intentionally touched on that wound. Aurora remained silent, and when she was offended, he turned everything into a joke, saying it was nothing serious. At first, Aurora tried to ignore the bad jokes, but over time, it started to hurt her more and more, and now she felt offended often. Furthermore, Oliver's behavior had changed radically in recent months. He no longer rushed home after work and often invented mysterious business appointments. Oliver arrived late, with a satisfied smile on his face and the smell of a sweet feminine perfume permeating his clothes. Aurora even noticed lipstick marks on the collar of her jacket a few times. He tried to talk frankly with Oliver about what was happening, but he again minimized everything with silly jokes, ending any possibility of serious discussion. Aurora felt a deep pain at the thought that there could be a rival in her life. She still loved Oliver intensely and did her best to surround him with affection and attention. Her company depended on her efforts, and she was dedicated to keeping the business thriving, without understanding what else Oliver could lack. Maybe it was the absence of a child. With Oliver's 30th birthday approaching, the celebration would be at a restaurant. Oliver, without worrying about the preparations, delegated the entire organization to Aurora, trusting that she, as always, would do everything in the best way possible. Aurora dedicated 2 intense weeks to planning the party, buying the freshest ingredients, choosing the menu and inviting guests. She also arranged live music, even managing to bring in Oliver's favorite local band, who would perform new hits. Aurora was anxious for everything to be perfect and hoped that Oliver would recognize her efforts. As a gift, she chose a handmade knife, a unique custom-made piece, as she knew that Oliver collected rare weapons. The blade, made of special steel and with an original engraving, left Aurora delighted with the result. Finally, the big day arrived. A procession of luxurious cars parked in front of the restaurant, and the ladies sparkled in their elegant outfits and dazzling jewelry. Aurora, however, wasn't worried about looking like a luxury doll. She asked the salon for soft makeup and a discreet hairstyle, as well as choosing a dress that made her feel comfortable and a pair of elegant heels. She looked beautiful, and the slight excess weight didn't bother her, nor did it spoil her appearance. Oliver, on the other hand, dressed flashy as always, enjoying being the center of attention. During the party, when Aurora took the microphone to heartily congratulate her husband and hand over the gift, Oliver just applauded in a discouraged manner and responded ironically, "Thank you, dear, we've been together for so many years. Living together for so long, and you still haven't developed good taste. That knife is nothing special, just like your dress. Although I didn't expect anything different from you, everything is as usual." Scarlett, Oliver's mother, didn't miss the opportunity to make her nasty comments. "Son, stop criticizing Aurora. She tried hard, and who can blame her form? Anything she wears will not enhance her beauty. And as for the knife, it can be useful in the kitchen. Let's not focus on what doesn't matter." The situation worsened when a young woman, who was next to Scarlett, laughed disrespectfully, accompanied by laughter from other guests. Feeling bad, Aurora quickly left the room and went to the bathroom, where she cried alone for a while. Afterwards, she washed her face, touched up her makeup and, despite not wanting to, went back to the party. Inside, she was filled with sadness and discontent. "How can he act like this?" he thought. "I organized everything so carefully, I bought a unique knife, and not even a simple thank you. On the contrary, he embarrassed me in front of everyone." Throughout the evening, Oliver paid attention only to the young woman who was sitting at Scarlett's table, a woman with a striking presence, who wore an elegant and eye-catching dress. Oliver barely looked at his wife, as if they were mere acquaintances. Feeling uncomfortable, Aurora realized something was wrong and decided to look for them. Soon, he found them talking in a far corner of the room. The young woman spoke in a low tone, "You really are special to me, Oliver, and I wish to be closer to you." Oliver, with a smile, replied, "I enjoy your company too, but we need to be careful." Aurora, overcome with surprise and sadness, went to them and said, "What is happening here? Oliver, how can you do this?" Oliver, at a loss for words, didn't know how to respond, and the young woman just said, "I don't want to cause trouble, but my feelings are real." Aurora felt deeply betrayed, her heart squeezed by the pain of the situation. She still loved Oliver and had done so much to make the party perfect, but now everything seemed lost. The effort he put into the relationship and the company seemed insignificant compared to what was happening. Aurora decided it was time to rethink her life and what she really wanted from now on. She knew she would need to make difficult decisions, but she was determined not to continue being humiliated. "You are a fat, childless woman. Oliver and I love each other, we've been dating for 3 months, we're getting married and I'm going to have his child. You can't even do that, so go back the way you came." Aurora almost choked with so much insolence and waited for her husband's support, but he only confirmed, "Aurora, now you know everything. We should get a divorce, I love Evelyn very much and I can't be without her, so I don't care anymore." Aurora didn't hear anything else, she just slapped her husband as hard as she could and ran home crying to get her things. She was shaking and could not drive, inside she was burning with resentment and jealousy. Where to go? What to do? She had no idea, just one thought in her head, not for a minute, not for a second, "Will I live with this bastard who betrayed our love?" She fell in love with that rich doll for money and position, but another voice whispered to her, "How will I be without Oliver? I love him more than my life. It must be because I have no children." Aurora wandered aimlessly, crossing the city in the pouring rain, not realizing that her feet were soaked. She was wet to the bone and was crying loudly in the street. Passers-by looked at her strangely, and an old man avoided her. With a cane and a well-groomed beard, the elderly man walked towards Aurora. Suddenly, he touched the woman's sleeve, and Aurora screamed in surprise. "Are you there? I almost didn't recognize you. Why are you here alone without an umbrella? You're going to get sick." Aurora, crying, looked closer and was stunned. It was her favorite university professor. "Alberto, I'm sorry I didn't recognize you." Aurora tried to force the words out, but Alberto immediately noticed the emotional state of his best former student and decided to help with tact and subtlety. "Aurora dear, I'm very happy to see you. Let's spend half an hour at my house, have a hot tea, warm up and talk, because I'm feeling very alone in my 3-bedroom apartment." My children have grown up and abandoned me long ago time, and life still hasn't rewarded me with grandchildren. The woman accepted the offer with joy, as she was very cold and damp, not knowing where to go. In Alberto's apartment, everything was peaceful and cozy, smelling of delicious herbs. The man took Aurora to the bathroom and offered her a large robe. "Aurora, change your clothes, you can wash yours. They are all wet." Within half an hour, he set the table. They drank aromatic tea with raspberry jam and sweets, and Aurora was there, without anyone. When she realized that she was telling everything to her favorite teacher, someone with whom she had always had an almost friendly relationship, Aurora couldn't hold back. When he remembered the shame again, he began to cry, covering his face with his hands. "I'm so hurt and ashamed, Alberto, as if I was the one who cheated, not him. They cleaned my soul, you scarlet him like it was a napkin, wrung it out and then threw it away. It's my fault for not being able to get pregnant, and this happened. I'm fat because of those damn pills, and now I don't even know what to do. I don't want to go back to my mother's house, there's no work or prospects there, and I can't stay at my husband's company, it hurts me to see him." Alberto put a few drops of sedative in the glass and said, "Drink this first and calm down. Now, you can't make hasty decisions in life. Things happen, and I suggest you stay with me. I live alone, you won't bother me. There are plenty of space, choose any room, you'll recover, look for another job, and then life will take its course. It'll be better this way, and I'll have someone to talk to, and you won't be alone with your thoughts." Aurora was very grateful to Alberto for his help and support. He packed all his things and went to live with the teacher. The divorce with Oliver was resolved quickly. The young woman felt scared by the unknown, but Alberto was always there and didn't let her think about bad things. In fact, it was kind of fun to be together. After her son's divorce, Oliver's mother almost jumped for joy and couldn't stop saying, "We finally got rid of Aurora. She's useless, she can't even give birth to a child. I don't know how you fell into her nets, but Evelyn is perfect for you. She is rich, has the figure of a model, and will definitely give birth to an heir immediately, which will allow us to expand our business." His meeting with Evelyn was actually pure coincidence. The businessman was happy with his married life with Aurora. She was the perfect wife in every way, except for not being able to get pregnant, which bothered the man. And it wasn't even that he really dreamed so much about having a child, but all his friends already had children, and he didn't want to be the only one without heirs. One day, he met Evelyn at dinner in a restaurant after negotiations. He realized she was a beauty, clearly someone who spent a lot of time taking care of herself. Of course, there was a huge difference between Aurora, who was overweight and plain in appearance, and this very beautiful girl. But in truth, Oliver didn't think about cheating on Aurora, much less divorcing her. However, Evelyn had completely different plans. He grew up in a family of millionaires, where his father satisfied his every whim with the snap of his fingers. When she saw Oliver, she jokingly whispered to her friend, "I bet this handsome man will be mine, and not just in bed." Her friends started laughing, "I can't believe it. They say he's been married for a long time and I've never heard of him being unfaithful. Besides, he has a great reputation and he's not going to ruin it." But Evelyn laughed, "His wife is no obstacle to me. I'm used to getting away with it. So what do you want to bet, just for fun?" Evelyn set her eyes on Oliver and began flirting with him. A few glasses of wine, slow dances, during which La Bella exuded an incredibly expensive seductive perfume, did their job, and soon they found themselves in the same bed. For Oliver, it was an experience as pleasant as it was unusual, since with Aurora, he was always the one who won her over, but with Evelyn, it was the opposite. Of course he liked everything, but he didn't think their relationship would go any further. Evelyn, however, had another idea. She insisted that he come to her house for dinner and introduced him to her millionaire father. Oliver was reluctant until the end, as it seemed like a bad idea. After all, he was married and their relationship was secret, so why meet her parents? But Evelyn's father was a very influential man, someone you couldn't say no to, otherwise you could get into trouble. Before we continue, I need to tell you something amazing. Do you want to attract a lot of money into your life? Learn how to do it with the secret content that I will leave in the first pinned comment, and start transforming your financial life. Let's continue. The night was neutral, with the millionaire asking questions about how long Oliver had been married and whether he wanted Evelyn. Oliver didn't dare say their relationship was accidental. He realized that Evelyn's father wouldn't like it, so he assured him that he and Evelyn. He wanted to, but he realized he was lying and couldn't continue with the lies. I didn't really know what would happen after meeting him, the millionaire thought. He spoke thoughtfully to his wife. Well, what can I do? Say that the candidate is very good. My daughter seems to have fallen in love with him. He's a normal businessman, although married and without children. But it's a trifle, we'll sort it out. Fed up with Evelyn's antics, they planned a divorce and glamorous parties, where the driver drove her to a state of madness. Soon, Oliver would start using illegal substances. It seemed serious. Maybe it would make his daughter feel better. This conversation was a turning point in Oliver's destiny. Although he didn't even know it, it was up to him. The millionaire used him as a pawn on the chessboard, and unnecessary obstacles in the form of his wife were simply eliminated. After the divorce, Oliver was often tormented by conscience. He realized how unpleasant and ugly he had been to Aurora, who never did him any harm, just loved him faithfully. The stormy romance with Evelyn, crazy nights of passion and the impending wedding swirled around him, like a whirlwind of events, and he tried to push the guilt into the background and not think about it. But after marriage, everything went wrong in a man's life. Evelyn immediately became pregnant, finally the long-awaited heir, but she was not happy. Evelyn kept going out at night, threw tantrums, and was terribly angry that her perfect figure would be ruined after giving birth. She even wanted to have an abortion, but Oliver convinced her not to. Evelyn, I'm in shock. Why didn't the pills work for me? It must be because I forgot to take them for a few days. Look, Oliver, I'm not ready to carry the baby at term. It's still small, maybe I can miscarry and then we will have a baby later. Oliver thought she was in shock, so he patiently reassured her that everything would be okay. We will have an heir, I will help you in everything, we will manage it together. Children are our happiness. Think about it, it is our baby, our continuity. Your figure will recover, you will go to the gym and have massages. This way, you will quickly get back in shape. The business started to get worse without Aurora's actions. In fact, she was the only one who kept it all going. Things went from bad to worse, and the income became less and less. Evelyn, used to living well, asked her father for money, and Oliver asked her. He scolded, "You can't support my daughter, and what will happen when the child is born? I didn't think you were so stupid. You need to be firm in business, you have to fight to get a place in the sun. Why do I still support my daughter when my husband is alive?" Oliver tried to remain indignant, but Evelyn's father continued, "You'd better tell your daughter how she should behave. She's about to give birth and she still can't calm down. Fashion things and beauty salons. I have to think about my family and my daughter, and no matter how hard you work, I don't have enough money for her whims." Evelyn's father couldn't bear to be contradicted and pounded the table furiously, "Don't you dare insult my daughter. She is the only daughter I have, the most precious thing to me, and she can do anything. She's not a beggar like your ex-girlfriend, so be kind. You have forgotten who you are and where you come from. We accept you into our family, so be happy and keep your mouth shut, or I'll get you in trouble." Oliver felt like he had been given a wash. He apologized and left, realizing that his words were worthless and it was pointless to argue with Evelyn. The girl did what she wanted and didn't care about the people around her. After giving birth, things got even worse. Evelyn gave birth to a beautiful baby boy named Victor, and Oliver couldn't be happier to be involved with the child, playing and hanging out with him. Evelyn, however, was just irritating and was always looking for an excuse to leave the house with friends, not ashamed to post photos on social media. She didn't even start breastfeeding her son, even though there was plenty of milk, and transferred the child to formula, without caring about the baby's well-being. To her, he was just an annoying nuisance, and her husband was bored to death. They fought almost constantly. Oliver tried to appeal to his conscience. When are you going to calm down? Where are you going with that dress again? You are the mother of a child and you behave like a stranger. Why did you insist on getting married if you didn't want to have a family and children? Evelyn just shouted back, I beat you in a bet, if you must know, that's just because. I wanted to have some fun, I was used to having fun as a reward. I really didn't want a baby crying incessantly, day and night, with no privacy. You dreamed of an heir, so keep quiet or your father will cause problems, you are a businessman. Without my father's help, you can't do anything. I don't see any problem, we're going to hire a nanny to take care of my son, and I'm not going to waste my youth with this crying child. Thus ended the conversation. The man was literally torn between trying to save his ruined business, taking care of his baby and getting his wife out of clubs and parties. It was a terrible vicious circle, with no apparent way out. After a year of this hell, Oliver couldn't take it anymore and announced that he was asking for a divorce from Evelyn. They were strangers from the beginning, and if the first time was marked by intense passion, it soon fell apart. There was a huge scandal, as it was not Evelyn's plan at all. Evelyn's father reacted instantly and could not allow the divorce as it was a shame for his family. Deep down, he knew it was his daughter's fault, but his immense love for her clouded his judgment. He was used to simply eliminating every obstacle that came his way rather than bringing Evelyn to her senses. So he gallantly blamed Oliver, took the document business away from him, and sent him to prison for a few years as a deterrent. Evelyn and Victor returned to their parents' house. Now, in the eyes of others, the divorce seemed quite justified because Oliver was seen as a scoundrel and Evelyn and her son were considered innocent victims. This pleased everyone, as Evelyn's family's reputation in high society remained intact. This turn of events was something Oliver never expected. He screamed in court that he was innocent, that he had been framed and that his son would be lost without him, that Evelyn was a terrible mother who didn't care about her own son, but no one listened to him. Evelyn's father did everything he could to make sure Oliver was arrested. Oliver passed out, missing his son and unable to stop thinking about him. What would he be like without him? Who would take care of him? His mother didn't need him, and the millionaire didn't seem to care either. He fondly remembered how he kissed the baby's sweet cheeks, which smelled of milk, and how his son smiled at him with his toothless mouth, trying to speak strangely, crying into his pillow in despair. Oliver deeply regretted divorcing Aurora. He remembered her more and more at night, tormented by remorse. He realized he was paying revenge for everything his health had endured. The damp cell walls also began to affect his lungs, causing constant coughing and bronchitis. He hated prison food and the people around him. He asked himself why live and endure such a miserable existence for 3 years. He had the same dream over and over. He was on his knees before Aurora, begging for forgiveness, while she frowned and shook her head. Victor cried, reaching out his hand. And then he was finally free. First, he went to his parents' house. He just wanted to clean up, rest for a few days and recover, but he ran into unfamiliar people. We recently lived here. We bought the house. They passed away or something, we don't know, and all the documents are signed and in order. We can facilitate them through a notary. Oliver was stunned. What are you talking about? Where are my parents? How did they sell our house without my consent? The man was furious and went to Evelyn's mansion, but he didn't even let Evelyn's father enter alone. He radioed through the guard, Evelyn, your father is dead. Your mother is in a nursing home with severe dementia. I don't want your son. I have a lot of problems too. Either you take your son or I will put him in the orphanage. Oliver almost shouted, don't put it on. An orphanage, I beg you. Half an hour later, an older nanny came out and took Victor. The boy was sad and scared. He was already 4 years old. Externally, he was a copy of Oliver, with the same sandy hair tone and the corners of his lips a little drooping. His ears were big, and the only smile he had was Evelyn's, wide and expressive. Everything in Oliver's soul turned upside down. Tears covered his eyes as he remembered when Victor was a baby. It was obvious how many years of his life he had lost. His son's eyes didn't seem to remember him. The boy looked at Oliver in disbelief and asked in a low voice, "Are you my father?" Oliver began to cry, wrapped his arms around Victor and trembled. "Yes, I'm your father. My name is Oliver. Your grandfather put me in jail and I couldn't look for you before, but I thought about you every day. I love you. I'm sorry I haven't been by your side all these years. But I couldn't." Then the man turned to the nanny. "Can you tell me what happened to Evelyn, what happened to my parents?" The woman nodded and said, "Let's go to the bus stop. We'll talk about everything. Well, Evelyn died 6 months ago. You know the kind of life she led. Every year I went to Pior. One day, Evelyn had a drink after a nightclub and crashed at full speed into a car driven by the son of a very powerful officer. A good boy and promising young man of 18, both died. They found a large dose of substances and illicit drugs in his wife's blood, in addition to alcohol, losing everything. Now, their house is for sale. They really didn't need Victor. They didn't really hurt him, but they didn't love him. Even his own mother, may she rest in peace, never felt it. Sorry for him. She never said, 'I love you.' All I heard was to go to bed, don't cry," with that tone of voice. I'm sorry for him and his family. I don't know much about them, only that their father had a heart attack after his arrest and died suddenly, and their mother went crazy. Doctors say that dementia does not recognize anyone, it lives in its own world. So, the millionaire put her in a residence and sold her house. I don't know how he did it. It's not funny. Here, get some money. I understand that you just got out of prison, you have nowhere to live and you won't find a job. I just received my last paycheck. Goodbye, take care of Victor. I'm sure you're a decent man and will take good care of your son. It will be better with you." The nanny hugged the child as if he were her own. It was clear that she loved her very much. I sincerely thank this kind and thoughtful woman. She bought a newspaper with ads and started looking for a place to live. It was very difficult, especially without a job, and the situation got worse when they discovered his criminal record. After a whole day of searching, the grandmother, feeling sorry, rented a room for them. She lived next door and even brought the boy a bowl of hot soup. The boy ate greedily and fell asleep on the couch. Oliver started looking for work desperately, he needed to survive. With a baby in her arms and a job, her criminal past complicated things even more. All his merits and education were ignored, and he only got a job as a porter, but he was content with that. Then came the difficult days of survival. Oliver worked all day unloading cars and was paid pennies. He bought food on sale, without money for toys for his son. However, the boy was mature for his age. He saw how much his father loved him and tried hard despite his exhaustion from hard work, and he tried not to be demanding. He agreed to stay with his grandmother, preferring that to his grandfather's hostile treatment. During the week, Oliver and his son decided to go for a walk, something rare. The man wanted to give his son a gift. They went to a bakery with vanilla aroma and fresh products. The roasts were big and irresistible. Oliver counted his change, but he didn't have enough for a cupcake. At least he could save enough for a cinnamon roll, or the child would be disappointed. A respectable woman entered the store, apparently the owner. She greeted the salesgirls, "Good morning, girls. How are you? Any questions or complaints? Why doesn't the cheese croissant have a price tag?" She watched a thin, tired man counting the price. The boy needed enough money to buy a bun, and he felt great pity for the little boy, who had hungry and sad eyes, looking at the appetizing sweets in the window, but he didn't ask for anything. He waited patiently. For some reason, the man's silhouette looked strangely familiar, but the hostess couldn't see his face clearly. He prepared an aromatic coffee, a cup of tea, 2 cakes and some freshly baked bread, and gestured for the boy and his father to take the invitation home. The boy happily took the tray and sat at the table, gesturing for the boy and his father to take their seats. Suddenly, Oliver looked up and almost shouted, "Aurora!" She was shocked, only now realizing that Oliver was in front of her. He was so changed, aged, that she barely recognized what had happened to him. They sat at the table, and Oliver didn't hide anything. He told everything, as it was, and at the end he added, "You know, Aurora, I regretted divorcing you many times. I was so offended and humiliated, but fate taught me a hard lesson. During the 3 years in prison, I had the same dream, me on my knees before you, begging for forgiveness, and you just frowned. Who would have thought the dream would come true?" Oliver then suddenly fell to his knees and, looking faithfully into the woman's eyes, whispered, "I'm not ashamed to be at your feet, not in the slightest. I'm a terrible man. Forgive me for everything, if you can. I'm sorry. I feel deeply guilty before you and I still love you." Tears rolled down Aurora's face. The saleswomen were stunned, not understanding anything. They had never seen a housewife like this, and Aurora was waiting for these words, as she had never been able to love anyone and let them enter her soul. Through tears, Oliver said, "If you only knew how much you hurt, embittered and offended me by kicking me out. Your life miraculously helped me. My university professor gave me advice and encouragement to change jobs, save money and open a bakery, in addition to renting an apartment on credit. Alberto became my second father, and now we are dear friends. He taught me to love myself, and everything started to work." Oliver whispered with his lips, "I'm happy for you. You're a good girl, you started your life from scratch and it turned out well, but I ruined my life and the lives of others. Now, I'm unloading freight cars. Forgive me, silly, if you only knew that I will never see a woman like you again. It's a shame to realize this too late. Well, come on, my son." Oliver left and Aurora spent some time thinking about him. Suddenly the girls called out to her, "Sorry, Aurora, we found an address and phone number written on a napkin that we threw away." The woman jumped up, picked up the napkin and smoothed it out. The dreamer realized what was happening. Oliver wanted to reconcile with Aurora, but he didn't know how to form an ocean of passions. This shook Aurora's soul deeply, mixing love, pity, anger and resentment like a splinter embedded in her all these years. There was also a desire to help Oliver and his son. Therefore, for a month, Aurora went to his house, bringing toys, food and sweets for the child. She maintained friendly communication with Oliver throughout this time. Aurora watched in silence as he had changed, working hard to the limit, exhausted, but still, remaining in front of the stove to prepare meals for his son and finding time to play and read stories to him. Aurora quickly became fond of Victor, who was a calm and wonderful child. I was very happy whenever I visited, seeing the love and affection with which Oliver took care of his son. Oliver looked at Aurora like a loyal dog who had been kicked too many times, wanting to get closer to her. There were no more jokes or mockery, he wanted to be forgiven. But Aurora didn't dare forgive her ex-husband. So, he decided to consult Alberto and went to visit him with a cake. The old man was very pleased with his favorite student and they sat down to drink tea. During the time that Aurora lived with Alberto, he had learned very well about her character and realized that something was wrong. Concerned, he told Aurora that there was a reason for his visit. "I came for a reason." Aurora smiled, knowing that nothing could be hidden from Alberto. "By chance, I met my ex-husband at my bakery. He was with his little son. I found out that his second wife died, and his millionaire father framed him, resulting in 3 years in prison. Then, they were thrown in prison. Nothing makes me as sad as the fact that Oliver has already asked me for forgiveness 100 times. He dreams of reconciliation and living as before. I see how much he has changed, how much he works and loves his son, and the affection with which he looks at me, but I don't know what to do. On the one hand, I still love him, but on the other, this offense is a thorn in my soul, and I'm afraid that everything will happen again. Alberto was silent for a while and then replied, "There is an opinion. If you want to see how important a person is to you, imagine that they are no longer there and never will be. If you can still live happily without them, maybe it's not worth trying to get to know her again. But if you realize that you're willing to give everything just to have her around, then believe me, you should try again. In life, everything passes and everyone makes mistakes." Heart. Aurora thought about it. Her life seemed to have improved, she had her favorite business, bought her dream apartment and decorated it tastefully. However, despite everything, she felt like the most important thing in her life was missing, her family. During that month, communicating with Victor and Oliver, she desperately wanted to feel like the beloved wife again and become the mother of this unhappy child. He decided to call Oliver and, with firmness and courage, said, "I forgive you and I will wait for you and your son at my house. Come, I hope you don't repeat your mistakes. I won't regret what I'm doing." The man on the other end of the line was crying with happiness. Tears rolled down his unshaven cheeks, and he whispered, "Thank you, Aurora. I promise you won't regret it. I'll love you like I've never loved you before." At night, he and his son left the narrow, poorly ventilated room and moved with their belongings to Aurora's apartment. Victor now had his own separate bedroom, a large car-shaped crib, a study table and lots of toys. The most important thing was that both his father and his mother, Aurora, loved him. Victor began calling Aurora mother almost immediately, as she completely replaced him and treated him with great affection. She worried when he was sick, worked and played with him, held him gently, and in difficult times whispered, "Don't worry, everything will get better." The child, like a sponge, eagerly absorbed this love, as he had never received anything like it from his late mother. However, the relationship with Oliver did not improve immediately. First, Aurora helped him with his work and got him a job at her bakery. Oliver was now responsible for purchasing and delivering food, ensuring it was used correctly and did not expire. Despite the hard and exhausting work as a porter, he was enthusiastic and eager to do his job, trying to make Aurora happy. He couldn't be happier to be able to dress normally again and contribute to the new life they were building together. He was heading home to his family, where his beloved Aurora and well-cared-for son were waiting for him. Satisfied, the man willingly helped Aurora with the household chores. Together, they went for a walk and shop, praising the delicious soups and tasty cutlets she prepared. Whenever Oliver tried to kiss her or whisper passionate words in her ear, Aurora would immediately remember her moments with Evelyn, and all desire would instantly disappear. One day, Victor contracted an infection at daycare. The illness was mild for him, and he quickly returned to daycare as if nothing had happened. However, Oliver ended up getting the infection, and the illness was quite severe for him. The man had a high fever and was very ill. Aurora gave him painkillers and was extremely worried, caring for him with dedication. Oliver, seeing Aurora's care and effort, began to feel very sorry for himself. Suddenly he realized that she would be desperate if something happened to her. His love for her did not diminish, on the contrary, it became even more intense. As soon as Oliver recovered, Aurora approached him at night with her pillow, calmly pressing herself against him. A wave of forgotten joy washed over her as she hugged her beloved before bed. Dazed and happy, Oliver turned to her, nuzzling into her scented hair and whispering, "You've finally forgiven me. Come to me, my one and only favorite girl. I've missed you so much." They had never had such a passionate night, not even at the beginning of their relationship. Oliver hadn't opened up this much before. In a second, Oliver gave his beloved a sea of pleasure. In the morning, as she slept and dozed on Oliver's shoulder, listening to his rhythmic breathing and heartbeat, Aurora realized that there was nothing more important for a woman than loving and being loved. No career or status could replace it. Oliver and his son Victor were the only meaning of her life, and everything else seemed insignificant. That night, their family became more real. The couple soon remarried and Aurora officially adopted the boy. When Aurora went to visit Oliver's mother, she found her completely out of it and unable to recognize anyone. Aurora looked horrified at the out-of-control woman and understood that this could also be her destiny, revenge for the evil that was done to her. Oliver and Aurora took legal action and annulled the illegal sale of their mansion. Now Evelyn's father faced a sentence for a coup, and the house was returned to the rightful heir. However, Oliver had no interest in keeping the mansion, as his memories of life there were painful, with an oppressive and cruel master. So, he sold it and, with the money, decided to organize a surprise for his favorite people. The night they were all gathered for dinner, Oliver brought in 3 trunks and shook them, saying, "Family, we're going to a ski resort for 2 weeks. I think we all deserve some absolute rest and fun." Victor screamed with joy and ran to kiss his father. Aurora was also happy, as she had never been to a place like this before, and was pleased to receive an envelope from Oliver with the details of the surprise. He handed over the money and said, "This is the remaining money from the sale of the house. I want you to invest in our business. My family's well-being is the most important thing in my life right now. You don't know what you've done for me. You are my muse, my vital stimulus, my guiding star." Aurora kissed her husband and thought that Alberto was right, we must follow what the heart tells us. Did you like this story? Comment what you thought of the end, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to our channel and activate the notification bell. A big hug and see you next time.